Gu Qiao woke up from sleep and inexplicably dressed up as cannon fodder in the White Lotus text. In Yijian Mountain, she was supposed to have her master cut off her spiritual root and give it to the White Lotus female lead. When Gu Qiao arrived, "Hey, I'll run and destroy your spiritual root. I came to the Qingfeng Sect." Originally, the Qingfeng Sect was a well-known and serious place in the cultivation world. After Gu Qiao arrived, "Hey, I slept soundly and played mahjong." The eldest senior brother, who has always disliked foolishness, came after Gu Qiao arrived. "Every day, I mutter, junior sister, you must remember to hang a sign on your body when you go out, and write down the address of our Qingfeng Sect. Don't get lost." Second senior brother, who has always loved drinking as much as his life, said after Gu Qiao arrived, "Little junior sister, I like it. Here it is, everything is for you. I don't like drinking." After Gu Qiao arrived, the always competitive third senior sister said, Okay, stop fighting. If you win, I'll go home and take care of my dear junior sister." The sect leader Shen Yan, who has always been arrogant and has a cleanliness fetish, said after encountering Gu Qiao, "Don't move, that is the cup that we have used playfully. Drinking water is sweet." Even the master, who has always been known as, "It's better to eat less than to know one dharma," said every day after Gu Qiao arrived, Qiao, can this dharma be used? You can't be hungry. Come and have 2 more bowls of rice." Gu Qiao, who has already eaten 3 bowls, said, Chapter 1. One Sword Mountain, goodbye to you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Go to his mother Yijian Mountain and his mother senior sister. Since Gu Qiao came over wearing a book, she has been forced to curse in her heart every day. Gu Qiao, who was standing outside the hall today, couldn't help but curse again. At this moment, a oppressive voice came from within the hall, "Gu Qiao, come in." Gu Qiao clenched her palm and strode in. No need to think, she knows what she's looking for. The sect leader. Yiheng sat high in a chair, her strong breath making her kneel disrespectfully. "Master." Yiheng ignored her and just looked up before asking seriously, "Do you know what I'm looking for from you?" Gu Qiao knelt on the cold ground, speechless for a moment. She knows, of course she does. Her senior sister entered the sect 5 years earlier than her, and everyone in the sect doted on her immensely. But unfortunately, she is a miscellaneous spiritual root. Even though her master teaches her hand by hand every day, her magical power is still low. A few days ago, the senior sister had a sudden idea to use the spirit pill of the 10,000-year demon beast to improve her cultivation. The master ordered the whole sect to help her kill the monster, but the monster was too powerful, and she was forcibly dug out half of her spiritual roots. After being injured, Gu Qiao searched for herbs to heal her injuries. Unexpectedly, the herbs were asked by her master to heal her injuries due to their miraculous effects. Gu Qiao agreed. She thought it was just a herb, and she could look for it again. But this senior sister is really clumsy. Not only did she destroy the herbs, but the villain also sued first. Yiheng saw that she was silent and angrily rebuked, "Don't you know this herb is prepared for your senior sister? You are just a minor injury and will recover in a few days. Why take your senior sister's herb?" Gu Qiao looked at her hands covered in blood, and she really wanted to laugh. She was already seriously injured and had to fight her life to get the herb. She gave it to others, but now she still has to blame her. The senior brother on the side also agreed, "Junior sister, since you have eaten herbs, let's use your spiritual roots to repair the injury of the senior sister." Gu Qiao was so angry when she heard this sentence that she wanted to vomit blood. Lick the dog, it's all his mother licking the dog. However, thinking that this is a fascinating novel, and her setting was to recruit One Sword Mountain for the female protagonist to change her spiritual roots, she worked hard to calm her anger. Unexpectedly, Yiheng suddenly spoke up and said, "Since that's the case, why don't we just follow the advice and barely maintain it with your spiritual roots?" Everyone below the stage agreed one after another. Gu Qiao spat out a mouthful of old blood. I can't bear it at all. However, she still agreed softly, my spiritual roots are low, and it is my good fortune to be favored by my senior sister. Blessing, go to his mother. Blessing, this blessing is for you, do you want it? Gu Qiao cursed again in her heart. Suddenly, a disciple burst in, sweating profusely. Report to master. Sister's situation has changed. Please go and take a look quickly, master. Gu Qiao's heart was filled with joy. It can be counted as getting up and resting my knees. Yiheng immediately flew out with his sword, leaving a message before leaving. Kneel down on the ground and reflect for an hour. Gu Qiao couldn't help but roll her eyes. In the main hall, everyone else left, but unfortunately, this senior brother likes to meddle more and still wants to stay and watch her kneel down. Gu Qiao. He, thank you. Gu Qiao kneels for an hour. On the way back to the room, it was gradually getting dark, and Gu Qiao walked back one by one, without even a person to support her. You don't have to think about it, everyone must be in senior sister's room. Gu Qiao was just about to close the door of the room with one hand in her hand. Gu Qiao impatiently said, what are you doing? The disciple was stunned by the roar and said, Junior sister, the master said you should rest well. Gu Qiao looked at him incredulously. Master asked me to rest well. The disciple swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, Master said you should rest well tonight and exchange the spiritual roots for senior sister tomorrow. Gu Qiao snorted coldly and closed the door. She said that Yiheng didn't have such a kind heart. After all this time, it was still to exchange spiritual roots for senior sister. No, we can't stay at this sword mountain anymore. There must be no one tonight, it's a good time. Gu Qiao thought as she clumsily packed up her things. As she was about to leave the yard carrying her luggage, she suddenly felt something was wrong. This senior sister usually tries her best to make things difficult for her. Others said today they want to dig her spiritual roots. If she just walks away in such a gloomy manner, she can't swallow this breath. So she quickly returned to the front of the senior sister's hall, performed a lightness skill, and successfully flew up to the roof. She stamped her hands and pounded on the roof, forming a formation. As long as the master starts using internal energy to heal the senior sister, her spiritual root 8 achievements will be ruined. After setting up the barrier, Gu Qiao happily wrapped her back and went down the mountain. In the morning, the sky is cloudless and the air is fresh. Gu Qiao held the Shaoxing sword in her left hand and a package in her right hand, walking gracefully in the bustling market. Sure enough, the air was particularly good after leaving that damn Yijian Mountain. She had just sat down in a tea house when she heard the two people at the adjacent table saying, Did you hear about that one sword mountain? A palace collapsed this morning. Gu Qiao became interested and walked over with a smile on her face. Brothers, what happened to Yijian Mountain just now? The two people on the table became excited when Gu Qiao asked. Miss, you don't know. The senior sister of Yijian Mountain is called Mingyue. Oh, that's really a pity. Gu Qiao sat down with a curious expression on her face. What kind of tragedy? One of them lowered his voice and said, she, originally only had half of her spiritual roots left. This morning, her master healed her wounds, as if saying that her master's spiritual power was too strong for her to bear, and the remaining spiritual roots actually exploded. Gu Qiao pretended to be surprised and said, Ah. Surprisingly, there is still this matter. My heart is filled with joy. How about it? It was my aunt who did it. One sword mountain, how about this gift? Oh, more than that, after her spiritual root exploded, not only did it destroy the palace, but even her master and brothers were injured. That's right, I also heard that Mingyu is still half dead lying in bed at this moment. Gu Qiao felt a sense of relief upon hearing this, and waved her hand as she said, Brothers, I have paid for your account today." The two quickly stood up to express their gratitude. Gu Qiao saw the weapons around their waist and said, "Excuse me, where are you two brothers?" Two people said, "The two of us are watching the Qingfeng Sect recruit disciples and want to give it a try." Gu Qiao, ponder for a moment. This time she went down the mountain without a place to go, with little silver on her body. She needed to find a sect to support herself. The Qingfeng Sect that those two people mentioned seems to be very good. Moreover, if her assassination of Mingyue is discovered in the future, having a sect can also protect her. Moreover, as the book says, there are many beautiful men in the Qingfeng Sect. This is even more in line with her. Chapter 2. A big handsome guy for free. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gu Qiao made up her mind to go to the Qingfeng Sect, so she hurriedly set off. She admired the beautiful scenery of blue sky and green grass all the way. Unexpectedly, I suddenly stumbled upon something and squatted on my butt. What kind of thing? It killed me. Gu Qiao stood up and saw herself lying alone in the grass. She sniffed and was still breathing. "Hey, it's not like I said, big brother, you can't sleep on the main road. Seeing no response, Gu Qiao called out a few more times. Big brother, do you hear me?" Gu Qiao still didn't react and shouted in her heart that it was not good. She immediately lifted the person up. I saw this person with thick eyebrows and big eyes, a tall nose bridge, a face like a masterpiece, and a red outfit. Just like the legendary big-eyed cute dog. "Oh, hello, so he's a handsome guy." Gu Qiao insisted on not letting go when she saw a handsome guy. Oh no, she insisted on helping those in need and kindly pulled him aside. She carefully checked her pulse and found that the person was seriously injured, so she infused him with spiritual energy to protect him from death. Gu Qiao waited left and right, and when she was about to fall asleep, the person next to her suddenly sat up and scared Gu Qiao, shouting loudly. What are you doing, pretending to be a corpse?" Gu Qiao glared angrily at him with wide eyes. The man kept wiping his hands with his sleeves, his eyebrows filled with indifference, and he looked at her with a wary expression. "Who are you?" Gu Qiao looked at him angrily. "Who am I? I am your benefactor. If it weren't for me, you would have died." Gu Qiao looked at him around and suddenly laughed mischievously. "Hey, I saved you, why don't you just follow me?" The man stared at Gu Qiao and kept an eye on her for a while. Anyway, he is seriously injured now and needs a place to recuperate. After figuring out the pros and cons, he readily agreed. Gu Qiao was stunned for a moment. He couldn't have taken a liking to me, could he? However, if he really talks to me, it seems that he is at a disadvantage. "Hey, what's your name?" Gu Qiao only remembered to ask this question for a while. "Shen Yan," the man said lazily. Gu Qiao silently jotted down her name. "Then from now on, you can follow me to join the Qingfeng Sect." Following Gu Qiao, Shen Yan checked into the inn. On a dark and windy night, Shen Yan stood by the window. As a whistle sounded, a man in black climbed over the wall and window, appearing in front of Shen Yan. "Master." The man in black knelt respectfully. "You're really not dead." Shen Yan's indifferent voice rang out. "Get up, what's the current situation inside the door?" The man in black returned and said, "Most of the people inside the door are now standing on the side of the left protector. Most of the people who support and seek you have been killed by the protector." Shen Yan's eyes suddenly showed a murderous intent, and the strong aura around him shattered the nearby teacup. The frightened man in black quickly knelt down and pressed a knife against his neck. "Sect leader, I have neglected my duty and allowed the protector to exploit loopholes and harm you. I am willing to apologize with death." Shen Yan's spiritual energy rushed out with a single blow, accurately striking the black-clothed man's sword. But he also coughed and bled due to the injury. "Now is the time for someone. If you have an accident, it is inevitable to blame you for it. His voice is too low and hoarse to speak. The man in black immediately took out a bottle. Master, this is the spiritual pill that my subordinate secretly brought out. Shen Yan took the bottle through his sleeve, opened it and took a few pills. With the help of his martial arts skills, his spiritual energy recovered and his injuries improved. Shen Yan said, you continue to observe secretly, record those traitors one by one, and then hand them over to me. Also, don't reveal the news of my life. Yes. The man in black immediately used his lightness skills to leave after taking command. The next day, when Gu Qiao checked out, she said, didn't you say 3 taels of silver for a room? Why is there still 1 or 2 more? The shopkeeper politely replied, Miss, your companion broke one of our teacups yesterday, so there's 1 or 2 more. Gu Qiao's face darkened as she looked at Shen Yan, who seemed to be calm beside her. Humph, why did you break the teacup? Shen Yan looked serious. Oh, I accidentally broke it after turning off the light last night. Gu Qiao exclaimed angrily, since it was you who broke it, then you should compensate them. Be poor. Shen Yan surprisingly spoke confidently. Gu Qiao turned her head and looked helplessly at the shop owner. I'll give you 50 more, 1, no more. What else did the shopkeeper want to say? Gu Qiao directly pulled out the Shaoxing sword. If you keep arguing, I'll demolish your store. The shopkeeper looked at the sword in Gu Qiao's hand and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Young Xia, calm down. 51 is 51. Coming out of the inn, Shen Yan frowned innocently and said, it's just 1 or 2 silver coins, are you still there? Not to mention it's okay, just mentioning Gu Qiao makes me angry. 1 or 2 silver coins, all my money has been used to buy pills for you. I only have 51 left, and I even compensated you for the broken teacup. Gu Qiao looked at him up and down, forget it, just spend the flowers. We can't let our future husband be a sick seedling, can we? But Shen Yan was somewhat shocked upon hearing this. Is she so poor? He just met Gu Qiao by chance, but he didn't expect her to be so kind-hearted and spend all her money on him. Shen Yan was too embarrassed to say anything more. He pulled off the blood-red jade pendant from his body and threw it to Gu Qiao. After Gu Qiao caught it, she looked around and saw that everything was transparent. Surprisingly, it was a blood-red ice seed. Hey, not bad, not bad. She pretended to cough twice. Shen Yan, is this jade pendant? Shen Yan gave her a cold glance. What, you don't want it? After speaking, go ahead and grab it. Gu Qiao was quick-witted and put the jade pendant in her pocket. Consider this as debt repayment, thank you. Then he walked forward with his hands behind his back, bouncing back and forth. Shen Yan saw her so happy and murmured, I made you as a friend. The two of them worked hard all morning and finally arrived at the Qingfeng Sect. I saw a group of people outside the door, dark and grand. Shen Yan frowned and said, Gu Qiao, what are we doing here? Gu Qiao looked at him like a fool. Of course, he's here to run for the Qingfeng Sect's disciple. Shen Yan heard the disdain in Gu Qiao's words and said without showing any weakness, didn't you say you were a disciple of the Qingfeng Sect? Why do you still have to run for election? Gu Qiao gave him a glare. I'm not wrong, anyway I will definitely be selected. So why not call myself a disciple of the Qingfeng Sect day after day? Shen Yan remained silent and was completely defeated by the girl in front of him. Suddenly, a person said, hey, the girl has also come here. Gu Qiao looked up and saw that it was the 2 brothers who were gossiping at the tea house a few days ago. The 2 of you are also here. Gu Qiao greeted them with a smile. Shen Yan whispered aside, oh, I've never seen you treat me so well before. Gu Qiao glanced at him. Miss, last time we didn't see the young master next to you. Gu Qiao smiled and said, this is my servant. My friend, I asked him to do something last time. Gu Qiao originally intended to talk about the servant, but just as she uttered a word, Shen Yan stared at him and his spine became cold. The two brothers laughed and said, "So that's the case. We won't disturb the girl. We hope she can pass the test smoothly." During the conversation, the door of the Qingfeng Sect was opened, and two members of the faction emerged from inside. Chapter 3. Pure Spirit Root. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Everyone rushed into the Qingfeng Sect like crazy, and when Gu Qiao saw this, she grabbed Shen Yan and rushed over. The originally empty square in the park was bustling with people. Gu Qiao kept watching the excitement, while Shen Yan kept wiping his hand that had just been pulled by Gu Qiao's hand. "I followed you. It's really a blood mold that has been ruined for 8 lifetimes." There is a table placed under the eaves, with an old man sitting in it. The young man dressed in blue said, "Everyone, today we are recruiting disciples from the Qingfeng Sect. Everyone needs to come to me to test their qualifications first." I saw the young man placing a fist-sized spirit stone on the table, which was crystal clear and had 7 colors. This testing stone can measure your qualifications. You just need to put it on your hand. The darker the color, the better your talent, and the purer your spiritual roots. One person said, "I'll come first." I saw him gently place his hand on the spirit stone, and in an instant, the spirit stone shook out a powerful force, directly sending the strong man flying dozens of feet away. The strong man vomited a few bites of blood before fainting. Gu Qiao just stood where the strong man fell. Scared, she hugged her hand and turned her head to look at Shen Yan, saying, "Mom, this is too painful. Otherwise, let's just forget about it." Shen Yan glanced at her but didn't speak. The young man said, "His talent is too low to even block the energy of the spirit stone. Who will come next?" Everyone was frightened by what had just happened, and no one stood up. Shen Yan said speechlessly, "You're really cowardly." Gu Qiao looked at him and sneered, "You're not cowardly, you go ahead." Shen Yan looked at her with a black smile on his stomach. He grabbed her shoulder through his sleeve, and with a jump in his lightness skills, he flew several feet high and landed steadily in front of the Lingxia. Gu Qiao anxiously grabbed his hand and whispered, "Shen Yan, if you want to die, I don't want to." Shen Yan watched as Gu Qiao grabbed his right hand again, and with a sinister smile, he gritted his teeth and said, "Don't worry, those who can speak well will definitely not die." Then, coldly shaking off Gu Qiao's hand, he silently wiped his own hand. "Look, it's really unlucky." The young man impatiently asked as he saw them muttering incessantly, "Which of you two will come first?" Gu Qiao immediately showed a smirk and a pleasing expression. "Well, let's think about it again." Before Gu Qiao could finish a sentence, Shen Yan slapped her from behind. Gu Qiao was suddenly hit by the palm force, and her hands happened to hold the spirit stone. In an instant, the spirit stone released a powerful energy, blooming with a purple light. The energy surged into the sky, and the huge fluctuations made everyone unable to stand firm. Gu Qiao nervously took away her hands and covered her face. "It's over, I have to explain it here today. I hope you won't attack my face later and make me look good even if I die." Unexpectedly, what she was muttering in her heart came true, and the energy fluctuations seemed to recognize people, completely avoiding Gu Qiao and Shen Yan. They were the only two people standing up gracefully as if they were Mount Tai. From a distance, they looked like a barrier protecting them. Others are either blown upside down or in a state of embarrassment. Fortunately, the energy dissipated shortly. The people who carried it over didn't understand what had just happened. They all looked at the boy, hoping he could give an answer. At this moment, the old man who had been sitting upright suddenly stood up and looked at Gu Qiao. The color of the spirit stone that this girl just tested out is purple, which indicates that she is a pure spiritual root. And the spirit stone showed a significant reaction, indicating that she may not be an ordinary pure spirit root, but a rare to pure spirit root. This statement surprised everyone greatly. Oh my goodness, after all these years, we've only heard of the pure spirit root before. I thought it was just a story. The old man slowly walked up to Gu Qiao. Girl, are you willing to give up the later assessment and join our Qingfeng Sect directly? Gu Qiao originally thought she was lucky and wanted to happily agree, but when she thought of Shen Yan, she still couldn't bear it. She instinctively wanted to hold Shen Yan's hand, but when she thought of Shen Yan's disdainful expression, she could only hold on to his sleeve. Well, it's this venerable one. I also have a friend who hasn't tested the spirit stone yet. I want to wait for him to come along. The old man saw the opportunity and didn't say a word. Okay, then please have your friend also test it. Upon hearing this, Shen Yan took a step forward and gently placed his slender hand on it. Gu Qiao. Aren't you obsessed with cleanliness? Why are you so sharp? In an instant, the spirit stone emitted a purple light again, and a similar energy wave appeared. Everyone said, damn it, come again. Although everyone was prepared to see the purple light this time, they were still defeated by the energy of the spirit stone explosion. There was another wave of panic, and as expected, Gu Qiao and Shen Yan were also safe and sound. After listening to the energy, the old man beside him looked at Gu Qiao and Shen Yan, drooling as he liked it. Oh, another pure spiritual root. How about you come with me to meet the leader now? Amidst the envy of the crowd, Gu Qiao and Shen Yan followed the old man away. I don't know how many times they have walked through the hall, but they finally arrived at the main hall of the sect. Oh, this is the first time she has seen such a luxurious palace. This Qingfeng Sect is too wealthy, isn't it? Gu Qiao looked around, laughing uncontrollably. The old man strode in with Shen Yan, while Gu Qiao fantasized about her future happy days and followed them into the main hall. Junior brother, I have brought you people. The old man stood at the foot of the steps and continued. Oh, you don't know, I haven't seen such a precious disciple for a long time. The person called Junior Brother is the leader of the Qingfeng Sect. Su Qingfeng. Su Qingfeng saw Gu Qiao and Shen Yan, and his eyes were shining with light. The two purple rays emitted by the lingsher just now shot straight into the clouds. They all saw it. Oh my dear disciple, I don't know your names yet. Gu Qiao and Shen Yan exchanged glances. Gu Qiao. I'll go. Is this the leader of the Qingfeng Sect? Shen Yan. Well, he is easy. Going. Seeing Shen Yan's answer, Gu Qiao was speechless. The old man became anxious when he saw two people hesitating to answer the question. No, they want to go back on their word. This is not acceptable. He quickly answered for both of them. Their female doll's name is Gu Qiao, and their male doll's name is Shen Yan. After hearing this, Su Qingfeng's heart became clear. Gu Qiao, Shen Yan. Well, it's a good name. Su Qingfeng continued, I heard that the two of you are close friends, so the room I arranged for you is only separated by a library. How about it, is my teacher very considerate? Little disciple, praise me quickly. Gu Qiao looked at Su Qingfeng's proud expression and thought to herself. Is this kind of leader reliable? However, it's also good. With such an interesting leader, she shouldn't be too busy with her homework. It seems that she has come to the right place. Gu Qiao felt smug and Shen Yan went to their respective rooms under the guidance of their senior brother. Along the way, the senior brother chattered incessantly. Gu Qiao and Shen Yan, although you have been accepted as disciples by the sect leader, you are still inexperienced and can only be disciples of an external sect. However, you don't have to lose heart. After all these years, if an external sect disciple is recognized by the sect leader, you are also the first. Gu Qiao became impatient and covered her ears. While her senior brother was not paying attention, she ran into the room holding her head. As soon as she entered the room, the first thing Gu Qiao did was to see if there was anything valuable in her room. The result is naturally very disappointing. There are only ordinary cabinets, tables, and so on in the room, and the only good one is that the bed is made of golden nanmu. Because the sect leader has always believed that sleep is the most important thing, and not sleeping well is a deadly thing that can affect the next day's class, all the beds in the entire sect are made of golden nanmu. Although there is nothing of value, this condition is already much better than the foolish sword mountain. Gu Qiao is already satisfied and waiting for her salty fish days in the future. Chapter 4. Doubi or Doubi. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The next morning, the senior brother came to call Gu Qiao. I saw Gu Qiao, who was lazy and dressed well, but her hair was messy. Gu Qiao lifted her hand and waved it casually. Harm, senior brother. Senior brother, Mu Ziyang, couldn't help but frown at her appearance. The Qingfeng Sect stipulates that disciples should dress appropriately and generously, and not damage the sect's image. Especially now that you are an external disciple. Gu Qiao looked at her clothes in confusion. Well, I don't have any sect clothes, I wear my own. They wouldn't be so stingy, would they? Accompanying the eldest senior brother is also the second senior brother Lu Jiao. He looked at Gu Qiao's puzzled expression and secretly transmitted the message. It's not clothes, it's hair. Gu Qiao looked up with a bewildered expression on her face. Who? Who was talking just now? Lu Jiao suddenly coughed twice. Gu Qiao immediately realized that it was him. Gu Qiao said with a playful smile, "Senior brother, and that handsome guy, wait for me." She hurried into the room. Mu Ziyang looked at Lu Jiao seriously. Handsome guy. Is she talking about Lu Liquor? He is not handsome anymore. Lu Jiao was stared at very unnaturally, feeling uneasy in his heart. Why is senior brother looking at me like this? He wouldn't have found out that I stole his roasted chicken, would he? Under the stalemate, the door suddenly opened. Gu Qiao walked out of it. What is the style of women tying men's hair? The senior brother saw Gu Qiao's makeup and hair, and his face changed instantly, shouting loudly. Gu Qiao has a grandpa-like gaze when looking at her phone. Oh, what era is it? There are still such regulations. Please, you are from a prestigious and upright family. Lu Jiao immediately came out to relieve the situation and said, "Oh, senior brother, junior sister is still young and immature. Anyway, her hair is much better now than just now, so don't be angry." When Gu Qiao heard that someone else actually understood him, she immediately became interested in this handsome guy. She went over and patted Lu Jiao's shoulder. "Handsome guy, what's your name?" Lu Jiao replied with a smile on his face. Lu Jiao, Qingfeng Sect, second senior brother. Gu Qiao touched her chin with a lewd expression on her face. Well, handsome is handsome, but it's still a bit inferior to Shenyan. Mu Ziyang said, "Forget it, I'll take you to explore the Qingfeng Sect first." Strolling the Qingfeng Sect, don't you call Shenyan? Second senior brother suddenly poked his head out and smiled. Do you think everyone is like you? They have already woken up to practice martial arts and don't have time to wander. Gu Qiao raised her eyebrows, so serious. During the meal, Gu Qiao casually pulled a few bites of rice, and then her gaze fixed on Lu Jiao's sword. She asked thoughtfully, "This is your sword?" Lu Jiao held the sword handle. "You see, it's an ordinary sword, but no one in the world can match it with me. It was given to me by my master when I joined his sect." Gu Qiao puzzled and said, "Since you all have it, why didn't I have it when I apprenticed yesterday?" Mu Ziyang patiently explained, "You are still just a shallow outer disciple. Your second senior brother and I entered the sect early, and his item was given by our master when we entered the inner sect." Mu Ziyang's words successfully aroused Gu Qiao's interest. "Second senior brother, can I touch it?" Lu Jiao hesitated for a moment and said, "This is my wife." So their straight man's wife is their weapon. When he said this, Gu Qiao's curiosity grew even stronger. She playfully smiled and said, "Second senior brother, can I touch your wife? Lu Qiao. Are you polite? In the end, Lu Qiao compromised and pulled out his wife. Ah, it was his precious sword. Hey, junior sister, although it's just an ordinary sword, it has the function of controlling people. Please be gentle and don't let me damage it. Gu Qiao joked silently, oh, I know second senior brother. I won't wear your wife down. Sui Feng, this is the name of this sword. Gu Qiao caressed the two characters engraved on the hilt of the sword, crooked and somewhat ugly to be honest. However, it also happened to indicate that second senior brother personally carved it with each stroke and painting. He is actually the treasure of this sword. Gu Qiao put the sword in her hand and rubbed it back and forth. Siha, it's so cool. I don't know if it's possible to open it up for her to study. Lu Qiao smiled and said. Of course it's cold, it's forged from the cold iron of the Tianshan Mountains. But it's a bit surprising that this sword didn't attack you. Mu Xiang smiled and agreed, saying. Yeah. The spirit in this sword has a bad temper, and everything I used to want to touch it was knocked away by it. Gu Qiao lifted her head and confidently said, it must be this artifact spirit who saw me as a beautiful and kind-hearted fairy, that's why she didn't want to hit me. Mu Xiang, Lu Qiao said. However, Gu Qiao didn't think much, after all, good spiritual tools have temperaments. By the way, junior sister, what's the name of your sword? Before Gu Qiao could swallow the food in her mouth, she blurted out a sentence. Shaoxing. Shaoxing. A good name. After praising Lu Qiao, he happily took out the wine gourd from his arms, took a sip of the wine, and unconsciously let out a poem. The young man's ambition is sent to the sky, and the Milky Way should be my practice. Gu Qiao was stunned at this scene. Are they all so powerful in ancient times? Li Bai per capita, drinking some wine can make a poem. Mu Xiang didn't have any thoughts when he looked at the sword in her waist, but after Lu Qiao rose so high, he immediately became interested. Junior sister, where did you get such a good sword from? Where did it come from? This made it difficult for Gu Qiao. She vaguely remembered that when she read this book, the original owner did not have this sword. But when she walked over, this sword was right beside her. She really didn't know where this sword came from. It's nothing, just bought it casually in the store. Although there was not much useful information during the conversation just now. However, she developed an interest in the spirit of tools. Where did her sword come from? Why did it happen to appear when she came over? Does it have a spirit? After dinner, Mu Xiang hurriedly left for something, leaving behind Gu Qiao and Lu Qiao. After hesitating for a moment, Lu Qiao asked, Junior sister, I'm going to the black market in a few days. Do you want to go with me? Gu Qiao thought for a moment and said, it's okay. After all, I just joined the sect and happened to sell the talismans I drew before in exchange for money. Speaking of this, Lu Qiao pointed at Gu Qiao's Shaoxing sword and said, you use a sword. Gu Qiao nodded and said, what's wrong? How could you draw talismans? The young man was extremely confused. Aren't you not only practicing swordsmanship, but also practicing Taoism? Since ancient times, there have been rumors in the world of cultivating immortals that geniuses cultivate dual paths. It's just that it's difficult to learn a spiritual weapon well, so there are really too few people like this. Gu Qiao denied, no. I just casually drew and played with it. What she said is all the truth, after all, she has not even read a sword manual so far, how can she learn drawing symbols? Lu Qiao pondered for a moment and said, if you want to learn drawing symbols, why don't you ask Su Quan for advice? Su Quan. Gu Qiao's intuition is very familiar with this name. Oh, is he the special case of our Qingfeng Sect? Lu Qiao nodded and said, well, this person has a temper even stronger than my spirit. I'll ask him then and see if I can teach you. Gu Qiao really doesn't know Su Quan, she just suddenly remembered the content in the book. This Su Quan will also become the licking dog of the female lead, the senior sister Mingyu. Fortunately, she probably doesn't know the female lead yet. Returning to the room, she felt empty in her heart, thinking that she might not have seen Shen Yan today. She ran excitedly to the door of Shen Yan's room and shouted his name. Shen Yan, who was discussing with his subordinates, was suddenly disturbed by Gu Qiao. Shen Yan frowned when he heard her voice. "Sect leader, do you need your subordinates to kill him?" Shen Yan waved his hand. "No need, just keep it hidden in the future and don't let her discover it." After the person left, Shen Yan opened the door to meet Gu Qiao. As soon as Gu Qiao enters, she looks left and right. "What are you doing today? I haven't seen you for a whole day." Shen Yan was momentarily speechless, so he couldn't say that he was either treating his injuries or having a meeting with his subordinates. Gu Qiao looked at him as if he didn't speak, with a look that I understood. "Oh, just talk about being lazy while sleeping. What's so embarrassing?" Shen Yan pushed the boat with the flow. "Ah, yes, I've been sleeping for a whole day and I'm all confused." Gu Qiao patted his shoulder and laughed uncontrollably. "Tomorrow, we are going to listen to the first class of the Qingfeng Sect. I heard that the master is the old-fashioned person who invited us in. Since you're so tired, why don't we sleep together tomorrow?" "Shen Yan, thank you." Chapter 5. My Grass, Invisible Talisman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, early in the morning, Gu Qiao and a group of newcomers were all called up by the senior brother. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is your first class. Let's all cheer up and have a good class." The others answered with full energy. "Yes, senior brother." Only Gu Qiao yawned slowly behind her. "What's so good about that old-fashioned class? Why don't I take a nap?" Gu Qiao wrapped her hands around her chest, her eyes spinning around, looking around. "Hey, that tree is tall, strong, and straight. It's a pity you don't have to come to sleep." Gu Qiao, who had made up her mind, glanced at her senior brother who was giving a passionate speech ahead. "Hey, you didn't notice me. Go ahead." Quickly speaking, Gu Qiao secretly left the team and went up the tree to sleep alone. Wait for the master brother to lead a group to the classroom. He suddenly realized it. Where is Gu Qiao? Sleeping slot, why is Gu Qiao gone? At this point, the old man had slowly entered the door. "Ziang, have all the students arrived today?" Mu Ziang lowered his head and clasped his fists. "Bing, elder." "Not yet. Not yet." The old man waved his hand and said, "You go find it first, I'll teach first." "Yes." Mu Ziang turned around and quickly left the classroom, anxiously searching for Gu Qiao through the entire sect. He clearly told Gu Qiao yesterday that Elder Da's class should never be skipped, and the consequences are very serious. He thought she had listened, but ended up making such a mistake for him. Alas, this class of apprentices is too difficult to teach, senior brother. What are you doing here? Looking for Mu Ziang, who was in a state of anxiety for Gu Qiao, suddenly felt like seeing a savior. "Oh, Miss Su, you came just right. Help me find someone quickly." Su Lai looked at his senior brother, who was sweating anxiously, and couldn't help but wonder, "Who are you looking for?" Mu Ziang said calmly, "Gu Qiao, a new outsider, dares to skip the first class today." "Ah. Is that Gu Qiao with pure spiritual roots?" Su Lai, who received the answer from his senior brother, became even more curious about Gu Qiao. She was originally a competitive person, and when she heard that she had two pure spiritual roots, she thought she would meet them when they became stronger in the future. It's good now that Gu Qiao dares to skip the class of the elder. She's even more curious about her now. "Hey, senior brother, I'll help you find it together." The two of them searched together, flipped through the sect and fled to heaven and earth, but couldn't find Gu Qiao. I'll go, what's the situation? Senior brother, are you sure Gu Qiao is still in the sect now? Mu Ziang also breathed a sigh of relief. In theory, there is a barrier in the Qingfeng Sect, and Gu Qiao should not be able to escape. Why don't we ask senior brother Suchuan for a favor? He's a student of seal script, so let him use seal script to help us find it. Seeing that the classroom was already halfway through, Mu Ziang had no choice but to do so. When the two of them found Suchuan, he was practicing his spells in the back mountain. After the two explained their intention, Suchuan readily agreed. Twist paper with one hand and cast magic with the other. The Dharma followed the formula, and a faint blue spiritual power flowed out from both the index and middle fingers. He gestured with both fingers on the paper. The spiritual power falls onto the paper and becomes a talisman. Instantly, a huge spiritual power enveloped the three of them. The three of them teleported and arrived directly under the tree. Su Lai looked at the vast and bare grassland in front of him, speechless. Why did this talisman seal bring us here? Suchuan calmly took out a gust talisman and pasted it onto the tree. In an instant, the strong wind blew and the branches were swaying left and right, while the three people beside them had nothing to do, as if only the trees were affected by the strong wind. With a scream, someone fell from the sky. That's right, it's Gu Qiao who secretly hides and sleeps. Gu Qiao, who had suffered from falling and eating, opened her eyes in a daze and saw a handsome guy. Dressed in white, elegant and natural, with a purple golden crown on his head, his hair tied up high, standing tall and graceful, looking like a young man dressed in fresh clothes and angry horses. Big tall, with long legs, wide shoulders and narrow waist, inverted triangle. His mother handsome. Handsome Gu Qiao is about to drool. Mu Ziang couldn't bear to see Gu Qiao's lascivious expression. Well, junior sister, let me introduce you. This is Su Quan, who is also your senior brother. This is Su Lai, your third senior sister. Upon hearing the name Suchuan, Gu Qiao's whole body was filled with excitement. Turns out, he just licked the female lead backwards and let her directly kick Yijian Suchuan. Being so handsome indeed has the capital to make the female lead abandon Yijian. However, compared to Shen Yan, there is still a slight difference. Back then, when she met Shen Yan, oh my, the appearance of that beautiful and powerful woman who had suffered losses in battle made Gu Qiao's heart itch and she wanted to ravage her. Ahem, that's off topic. Gu Qiao suddenly remembered her painful buttocks. Rubbing his buttocks, he suddenly met Su Lai's gaze. You have always been in the sect, why can't we find you? When asked the question, Gu Qiao was also stunned. What is the problem? Can't find her, ask her why can't you find her? Invisibility symbol. Mu Ziang looked at Suchuan with a shocked expression on his face. Invisibility symbol. Are you saying she just used an invisibility talisman? Where did she get it from? Now it's Gu Qiao's turn to be confused. She just casually drew and played with it, how did she become an invisible talisman? She swore, Gu Qiao swore to the heavens that she had never learned the art of talisman and seal script. Suchuan's deep eyes were fixed on her, wanting to see some flaws, but unfortunately not. But his gaze made Gu Qiao feel a bit guilty. Gu Qiao thought she couldn't miss the opportunity to talk to the handsome guy just because of such a small matter. It's a polite opportunity. Well, how are you, senior brother Suchuan? Senior brother Lu Jiu mentioned you to me before. Are you drawing symbols for the first time? Gu Qiao blinked, how could she return to this topic? Oh, senior brother Suchuan, I just have nothing to do and just play around. Do you know the recipe? Ha! What kind of ghost is that? Gu Qiao has never heard of it. What about the 8 trigrams and 5 elements diagram? Gu Qiao has never heard of this before. Suchuan looked at her unclear appearance and was probably certain that she had not learned any techniques. However, this is strange. The technique of talisman and seal script is inherently strange and mysterious, making it the most difficult to learn among the 4 major schools. Not learning to be self-taught can be said to be a natural talent, terrifying high. If she had someone to guide her and study hard in the future, over time, Su Quan wouldn't dare to imagine how powerful she would be. Chapter 6, Late, Penalty for Station. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Since ancient times, their cultivation of talismans has been extremely difficult, so there have been few practitioners. If Gu Qiao can learn talismans and seal script in the future, then the development of talismanship will be carried forward soon. Thinking of this, Su Quan's gaze at Gu Qiao became fiery. Gu Qiao looked very guilty. Oh my goodness, why did he suddenly look at me like this? He wouldn't have noticed that I had just been thinking about him, right? No, is it so obvious that you're a flower addict? Alright, junior sister, hurry up and go back to class for me now. Gu Qiao, listen, class. That's not possible. She sneaked out, she just skipped class. Gu Qiao hasn't left yet, so Su Lai directly picked her up. Let's go back and study. Gu Qiao struggled a few times on the way. Ah, why do you treat me like this? Third senior sister, we used to have no grudges and now we have no grudges. Su Lai placed the person at the door of the classroom. He said solemnly, who made you the most pure spiritual root that is rare in 100 years? You have extraordinary talents and are eager to learn. After you finish learning, you can fight me and compare your abilities. Gu Qiao was also drunk upon hearing this reason, knowing that she had a crush, but not knowing that she had such a crush. So, third senior sister, let's have a fight now, or I'll just give up, okay? Su Lai smiled slightly at her and said, not good. Then he kicked Gu Qiao directly into the classroom. The commotion was so loud that everyone turned to look at them. Mu Xiang slightly arched his hand. Elder, Gu Qiao has arrived. Gu Qiao looked at Qi Shushua's head turning around and shyly greeted them. Hello everyone. Okay, what a fart. De Chang angrily threw the book in his hand at Gu Qiao's feet. If it weren't for Gu Qiao's quick evasion, he would probably have hit her foot. Gu Qiao, who was unaware of the situation, still sighed in her heart that being a teacher is really short-lived. Elder, why be so grand? You're old and angry, it hurts your body. Qi can harm the body. The elder casually picked up the bamboo roll next to him and threw it directly at Gu Qiao. What a big anger that hurts me, Gu Qiao. Are you trying to anger me to death? Gu Qiao ran around the classroom for a while to avoid the bamboo roll of the elder, but eventually hid behind Su Lai. Elder, I didn't intentionally skip class. I know everything you taught me. I don't want to waste time listening to it again. If you don't believe me, can you ask me? The elder touched the table next to him, and all the books were lost. This he looked at Gu Qiao helplessly. Okay, stand up and I'll ask you. Can you talk about the current situation in the world of cultivating immortals? Upon hearing this, Gu Qiao breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. Easy. This can be done without hands. She straightened her clothes, with her hands behind her back and her head held high, pretending to be serious. Nowadays, there are mainly 4 major sections: sword cultivation, dan cultivation, talisman cultivation, and artifact cultivation. Among them, sword cultivation mainly focuses on swordsmanship, and our Qingfeng Sect is the largest sect of sword cultivation. As the name suggests, Dan Xiu refers to some alchemy techniques. Different levels of alchemists produce different levels of elixirs, mainly consisting of 3 levels: upper, middle, and lower. It is led by the Medicine Immortal Valley. Fu Xiu is a school that mainly focuses on the art of Fu and Zhuan. The effects of Fu and Zhuan drawn by different levels of Fu and Zhuan masters vary, led by Qiantian Sect. However, it seems that there are not many people practicing Fu and Zhuan nowadays. Finally, This is Qi Xiu, which refers to the collective term for people who practice spiritual tools other than swordsmanship. Currently, Qin Xiu is the main focus, with Qinyin Pavilion being the leader. The elder listened while touching his beard. Well, not bad. I have a decent grasp of the basic knowledge. Upon hearing this, Gu Qiao's heart was filled with joy. Not only that, but if you ask her to talk about the history of cultivating immortals, she can recite it for you like a stream of water. Don't doubt the basic qualities of a novelist. Just as the elder was still thinking about how to punish Gu Qiao, Gu Qiao had already taken her seat very consciously. Who made you sit down? Gu Qiao looked around in great confusion. Everyone is sitting. What's wrong, elder? Our sect has answered the question and won't allow us to sit. The elder was momentarily stuttered and said, that's not. Oh, then I can rest assured. Watching Gu Qiao's harmless appearance, the elder felt a sense of frustration in his heart. So what if everyone consciously sits down? He can't lick his old face and let someone go out and punish him. The elder sighed helplessly. Since you haven't learned yet, let me give you a chance to learn. Alright, since Gu Qiao was not present when we were explaining the art of imperial swordsmanship just now, please ask Gu Qiao to serve as my assistant and show us. Gu Qiao, hold your breath and try to control your sword. Gu Qiao placed her sword on the table, closed her eyes, and held her breath. She felt as if something was moving around in her body. Although the original owner had already started practicing a long time ago and her body had already broken through, for Gu Qiao's soul now, she can only control her spiritual power fundamentally. Is this spiritual power? She focused all her spiritual energy on her fingertips and then twisted the formula in her heart. Sword up. After half a day without any feeling, Gu Qiao opened her eyes and found that the sword was still motionless on her desk. It's a bit awkward. The elder frowned and touched his beard in confusion. Obviously, he did not anticipate this result either. After all, Gu Qiao is a rare and pure spiritual root, and this is the most basic technique. It's okay, this first time, mistakes are inevitable. Just try again. Gu Qiao regrouped and gathered her spiritual power again, flipping her fingertips. Sword up. The elder nervously stared at her sword, not daring to pant, his fingers constantly stroking his beard. Nothing has happened yet. Gu Qiao looked at the disappointed expression on the elder's face and awkwardly patted his shoulder. It's okay, this is only the second time, mistakes are inevitable. Elder. You are quite a good person. Gu Qiao looked at Shen Yan in the seat, looking at him with a humorous expression. I instantly felt her dignity being challenged. How about I try again? Gu Qiao put in a lot of effort this time. Sword up. The elder had already given up hope. As a result, the sword seemed to actually move. Everyone, including the elder, curiously gathered around to watch Gu Qiao's sword. As a result, the Shaoxing sword suddenly flew up and flew straight towards the elder. Gu Qiao, what are you doing? Stop it now. Gu Qiao was also startled by the chaotic scene and quickly cast a spell to stop Shaoxing's sword. But the Shaoxing sword not only did not stop, but also pointed directly at the head of the elder. At the critical moment, the elder bent down flexibly. Then, I twisted my waist. This is not important, what's important is that the elder saved his head. But the beard was halved by Shaoxing's sword. The elder supported his waist and struggled to get up with the help of other students. Gu Qiao felt guilty and awkwardly said, Elder, I said I didn't mean to, do you believe me? The elder touched his short beard and gritted his teeth, saying, Gu Qiao. You go out and punish me for standing. Chapter 7. Gu Qiao is shameless and invincible in the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gu Qiao, who had been standing outside the classroom for a whole day, felt as aggrieved as she thought. She couldn't figure out why Shaoxing's sword suddenly didn't respond. I didn't do anything, but my legs hurt when I stood and I limped when I walked. Just as she entered the yard, Gu Qiao saw Shen Yan standing in front of her door in plain clothes. "Are you waiting for me?" Shen Yan nodded and noticed that her right foot was half a step behind her left foot. With just one glance, Gu Qiao immediately withdrew her right foot. "Do you have leg pain?" Just stood there. Gu Qiao didn't feel embarrassed to answer, instead she said. "This is the first time you have proactively approached me." Shen Yan blinked and turned his face away, saying arrogantly. "I saw that when I was at the inn, you helped me pay." Gu Qiao didn't think much, but instead wanted to demonstrate her magnanimity. "But didn't you give me a jade pendant at that time? Look, I'm still carrying it now. Look, how magnanimous she is." Shen Yan was not moved. Shen Yan looked around and saw that the jade pendant was indeed worn by Gu Qiao at her waist. And he was inexplicably happy. "This thing looks particularly expensive at first glance. If I don't carry it with me, I might lose it someday." Gu Qiao bared her big teeth and smiled like a flower, as if waiting for Shen Yan to praise her. "Look, she's smart." Oh, Shen Yan's mood suddenly turned bad again. "It's not particularly expensive. If you're afraid of losing it, give it back to me." Gu Qiao became anxious in a moment. "No, this thing must be expensive. This kid must be wanting to go back on his word. No, he can't return it. Why are you like this? There's no reason why someone should go back as a gift." Shen Yan's originally good mood was completely gone, so he turned around and prepared to return to his room. Gu Qiao panicked. When the elder left today, she even explained that she wouldn't know how to take the exam tomorrow. Shen Yan has left, who taught her? Shen Yan, wait a moment. Gu Qiao quickly wanted to run over, but forgot about her leg pain. The person almost fell. Fortunately, Shen Yan reacted promptly and stopped to catch her. "Not good, jade pendant." Gu Qiao hurriedly stood up. The first thing she did was to feel if the jade pendant around her waist was still there. At the moment she touched the jade pendant, Gu Qiao's entire heart was relieved. Shen Yan couldn't help but frown as he watched her movements. "Do you care so much about this jade pendant? When I said I gave it to you, I gave it to you." Gu Qiao looked at him with a mysterious expression. "What do you know? It's all money." Shen Yan. What did you just ask me about?" Gu Qiao suddenly realized that she almost forgot about this matter. Can you help me practice what I learned today?" Shen Yan looked at her with a curious expression on his face. "Why, have you changed your gender?" Gu Qiao ran over with a flattering expression on her face, giving Shen Yan both back and shoulder blows. "No, it's the elder who said it will be checked tomorrow." Shen Yan snorted coldly. He knew it. Gu Qiao, this little heartless person. "So Shen Yan, you. Not teaching. Brother Shen. Not teaching. Shen handsome guy. Shen Yan. Oh, just teach me." Shen Yan ultimately couldn't resist Gu Qiao's hard and soft tactics. "Okay, I can teach you, but you can take care of my next 3 meals a day." Line. As soon as Gu Qiao saw the opportunity, she tactfully agreed. "It's just bringing food, it's a small matter. Well, when I eat, you need to accompany me. After finishing, you need to take the things with you." Line. "It's just packing up, she can't bear it." "Well, by the way, you also need to provide the massage I just received while I'm eating." "Okay." "Ah. Also need a massage. What did you treat her as?" Gu Qiao, servant. Shen Yan raised his eyebrows and looked at her, making a very dangerous sound. Don't want to do it." Gu Qiao's radar immediately sounded the alarm, and a smile immediately appeared on her face. Dry and dry. Gu Qiao is Shen Yan's servant, promising to serve him well. "But Shen Yan, we are civilized people, we need to be reasonable. You teach me once, I will serve you for a lifetime. This is not appropriate. Shen Yan remained silent for a while. As soon as Gu Qiao saw the play, she began to bargain crazily. Shen Yan, look, from now on, if you teach me once, I'll serve you for 2 days. How about that? Shen Yan looked at Gu Qiao's cunning smile and left without saying a word. 3 days. Then 4 days. 5 days, just 5 days, no more. Shen Yan finally stopped in his tracks. Okay, we'll close in 5 days. Gu Qiao, who had successfully negotiated, felt a wave of ecstasy in her heart. Sure enough, people are shameless and invincible in the world. Anyway, just ask him once, it's only 5 days, I promise to complete the task. Hey, where are you going? Aren't you going to teach me? Shen Yan didn't look back and said calmly, I'm tired. It's not too late to teach tomorrow morning. In Shen Yan's room, a person kept staring at all of this. Master, I'll give you my clothes and I'll help you wash them. Shen Yan pondered repeatedly. No need, her contact doesn't seem to make me so uncomfortable. But your cleanliness obsession. She will come to give me a massage for the next 5 days. Do you want to come and wash every day? Man in black. Oh, junior brother. Oh, junior brother. Junior brother. Su Qingfeng sat in the main hall and began to cry and howl when he heard the elders from afar. Oh my, junior brother. Senior brother. What's going on with you? The elder supported his waist and slowly sat opposite Su Qingfeng with the help of others. Senior brother, what's wrong with your waist? The elder waved his hand to Su Qingfeng. Junior brother, when it comes to my waist, that's all a ghost created by Gu Qiao. The elder general explained all the things in the hall today to Su Qingfeng. Really? It's so interesting. The elder felt somewhat speechless when he saw Su Qingfeng's reaction. Junior brother, look at my waist. Is your reaction normal? Su Qingfeng smiled without answering and took out a box. Senior brother, this is the nourishing muscles and bones pill. You can eat it and I guarantee you won't be able to recover in half a day. The elder looked at him and said, Junior brother, I know you intend to excuse Gu Qiao, but the rules of this sect are here. Gu Qiao, being late for class and teasing the teacher is completely against the rules of the sect. Su Qingfeng stuffed the pill into the hands of the elder, and then poured him a cup of tea. Senior brother, I'm not trying to justify Gu Qiao. Do you think that Gu Qiao entered the sect? I don't know, the rules of the sect are very normal, and look at Su Quan, he never goes to class. If I punish Gu Qiao for being late for class, what about Su Quan? Should I also be punished? Su Quan is different. He teaches seal script. Su Qingfeng gave a faint smile. Because of this, punishing Gu Qiao, for the sake of fairness, will definitely punish Su Quan. However, punishing Su Quan as a result would be too unfair for Su Quan. The elder has nothing to say. What about Gu Qiao contradicting the teacher? How to calculate? Senior brother, Gu Qiao has just started learning the art of imperial swordsmanship. It's normal for her to have some unexpected incidents, and it's not fair to say she's going against the teacher. At most, she's just not proficient in her studies. Chapter 8. Su Qingfeng's Online Dating. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The elder was completely defeated by Su Qingfeng. Okay, junior brother. This time, I'll listen to you. If she has another time, I'll definitely punish her well. The next day, with bright daylight, Gu Qiao didn't even wake up. Shen Yan stood at the door of her room, his expression extremely cold, a lifelike demon. Even the female disciples who used to gather around him often were afraid to take a detour when they saw him today. Gu Qiao was sleeping soundly in bed when suddenly a sword broke through the door and plunged straight into her pillow. Gu Qiao was startled and woke up immediately. With her eyes wide open, she faced a sword that was less than 2 centimeters away from her head. Gu Qiao stood up with a carp and pulled out her sword, cursing in her heart. Damn it, that idiot wants to assassinate your aunt. Let her find out that he must be broken into pieces. Gu Qiao angrily kicked open the door and met Xin Yan's black face. She looked at the scabbard around Xin Yan's waist and then at the sword in her hand. Damn it, it's your grandson who plotted against my aunt. But when it comes to words, it turns into. What a coincidence. I'll give you this sword, Xin Yan. Xin Yanxi ignored Gu Qiao's pleasing smile and withdrew her sword expressionlessly. If you still want to learn, pack up quickly within 15 minutes. Gu Qiao packed up at the fastest speed in her life. Picking up the Shaoxing sword, he followed Xin Yan to the empty space behind the mountain. Xin Yan had an inscrutable look behind his hands. First, demonstrate one and show it to me. Let me show you, haven't you seen enough of yesterday's jokes yet? Gu Qiao rose in her heart, but she was honest in her hands and began to recite. Sword rises. Before he could finish speaking, Shaoxing's sword obediently flew out of the scabbard. Gu Qiao looked at it with surprise. Yesterday, wasn't it still okay? Xin Yan furrowed his cold brow slightly. Shut up and practice well. Gu Qiao pursed her lips as if she were eating. Sword returns. As soon as the words fell, Shaoxing's sword obediently flew back. Then. Thrust towards Gu Qiao. Damn it, what are you doing? Killing the master. Gu Qiao ran and shouted while trying to persuade Shaoxing. That's a great rebellion. What kind of face do you have in your swordsmanship world in the future? Xin Yan caused a headache from the noise and rushed forward in 3 or 2 steps, hugging Gu Qiao's waist, avoiding the Shaoxing sword, and then taking the opportunity to grasp and tame it. Xin Yan looked at the Shaoxing sword in his hand with a strange expression. He can't say where the problem is. In short, Gu Qiao is like a cultivator during the foundation building period. In theory, spells should not be used in this way. So it's just that there's a problem with this sword. Gu Qiao, does this sword have a sword spirit? Gu Qiao was stunned, squinting her eyes and trying hard to recall in her mind. But I didn't remember anything. This has caught Gu Qiao's attention. How did she know about this? You, ask me, why not ask it? A typical sword does not have a sword spirit, unless it is a treasure sword that has been around for hundreds of years, or a famous sword that has slain countless demons and demons, before it can transform into a sword spirit. Gu Qiao's sword, It's difficult to evaluate. This sword, whether or not it has a sword spirit, is always a spiritual sword. You have been unsuccessful, probably because it doesn't cooperate with you. Gu Qiao stared at it with wide eyes. Not cooperating with me. Why doesn't it cooperate with me? I am its owner, it is now in my hands. Don't you understand even under someone else's supervision? Stupid. Sword. I really shudder, however, speaking of which, Xin Yan, your sword has a sword spirit. Xin Yan proudly turned around. Whether my sword has a sword spirit or not is none of your business. Gu Qiao watched as Xin Yan walked further and further away holding her Shaoxing sword. Grass, I don't know. In broad daylight, one would steal a sword with a bright and clear demeanor. What are you going to do? Gu Qiao quickly caught up, afraid that if she took a step slower, the sword would not be hers. Xin Yan didn't need to look, he knew that Gu Qiao didn't have any good thoughts in her mind. Find master. Oh. When the two arrived at the main hall of the sect, Su Qingfeng was drinking tea and savoring pastries. Seeing the two of them coming, Su Qingfeng warmly greeted them to sit down. Come, two obedient disciples, taste my tea. Gu Qiao puts all her troubles behind her when she sees delicious food. Without saying a word, he took the pastry given by Su Qingfeng. Sweet, really delicious. Su Qingfeng smiled and handed Shen Yan a piece as well. But Shen Yan frowned slightly and did not answer. Su Qingfeng immediately reacted and stopped there. He has also heard of Shen Yan's obsession with cleanliness. Gu Qiao was eating happily when she suddenly caught a glimpse of Shen Yan sitting upright. Here, give it a try. It's very delicious. Shen Yan hesitated for 2 seconds as he looked at the pastry in Gu Qiao's hand. Then, I took it over. Well, it's quite sweet. Su Qingfeng looked at Shen Yan with a hint of exploration. The things he gave Shen Yan despised. He doesn't mind what Gu Qiao gave him. Su Qingfeng looked carefully at Shen Yan up and down as if he had discovered some incredible secret. Well, what about this appearance? It's white and tender, with a tall and straight nose, big eyes, and red lips and white teeth. The broken hair in front of the forehead slightly covers the eyebrows, melon seed face, and the jawline is also extremely obvious. As for people, they are thin and tall, but it is evident that their martial arts are profound and reliable. That's the word, how to say it, oh yes, youthful vibe. Oh my, that's the kind of talent that matches their Gu Qiao. Perhaps, his gaze was too hot to be noticed by Shen Yan and Gu Qiao. Shen Yan looked up at Su Qingfeng in confusion. Gu Qiao, on the other hand, swallowed excitedly. With her years of experience in novels, the master's gaze clearly shows that she has a crush on Shen Yan. Good disciple, if the master asks you a question, you must answer truthfully. Well, here it is. Although Shen Yan is always focused on Gu Qiao's aesthetic points. But compared to dating, Gu Qiao prefers to play CP. Good disciple, how old are you now? Shen Yan's eyes were full of confusion. Master, why did you suddenly ask this question? Su Qingfeng let out a Z with a serious and sincere expression. Being a teacher is for your own good, but it can also harm you. Year side 19. Su Qingfeng's eyes lit up instantly. This is a good year. Pretty, what about you? Gu Qiao accidentally ate the melon on herself. 18 is good, 18 is good. Does Shen Yan have a marriage? When this question was asked, Gu Qiao's soul of gossip completely burned. In my mind, I have already come up with a big drama that my master received at the beginning of the year and my disciple attacked at the end of the year. Master, my parents went early and never got married. Su Qingfeng nodded hesitantly on his face. The little calculation in my heart is almost jumping on someone else's face. Oh, this age is just right, and there is no marriage. Isn't this a divine opportunity? Chapter 9. Handsome Guy Dancing Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shen Yan listened for a while and didn't even understand what the master wanted to ask. Su Qingfeng, on the other hand, was foolishly happy with his thoughts in his heart. Gu Qiao sighed as she looked at the two of them. Where is this all about? When Su Qingfeng reacted, there were only 2 cakes left on the plate. This he hasn't eaten yet. He aimed his target at Gu Qiao and said kindly, Qiao Qiao, have you forgotten something important? After Gu Qiao had eaten and drunk enough, with the reminder from her master, she finally remembered the serious matter. Oh, by the way, master, can you help me take a look at my sword? It always doesn't obey my commands. Su Qingfeng took the Shaoxing sword from Shen Yan's hand and first looked around. The silver-white sword body and white jade-like hilt. From the appearance, it's just a pretty ordinary sword. Master, today I observed Gu Qiao's practice and found that she has been unsuccessful. It's not because of her technique, but because this sword has its own ideas and doesn't want to be controlled by the technique. However, according to common sense, the sword has recognized its owner and there is nothing against its owner's will. Is that so? How could such a thing happen? Su Qingfeng seemed to sense something was wrong and used his magic to connect him with the sword's heart. He entered the world of swords and found that the essence of the sword was sealed by a huge barrier. Inside the barrier, the essence of the sword was hazy and he couldn't see it clearly, but he could feel the aura it emitted. Powerful yet familiar. Just like an old friend whom I haven't seen in a century. But he couldn't remember where he had seen this breath before. Suddenly, spiritual energy began to gather around the boundary. Su Qingfeng suddenly felt startled as he looked at the spiritual energy that couldn't gather into a hole. Is this sword spirit? However, to be precise, it was the residual soul of the sword spirit. They couldn't find any other residual souls, so they ran around inside the sword, ultimately causing Gu Qiao's sword to lose control. Su Qingfeng searched inside but couldn't find any other remaining souls. Helpless, he could only cast a spell to transfer some of his spiritual energy to the sword spirits to appease them. But this can only be a poison to quench thirst, and ultimately it is not a long-term solution. Su Qingfeng came out of the sword and returned it to Gu Qiao. Pretty, Master Jian has already dealt with it for you. But this sword, as a teacher, cannot be completely repaired for you. Since it has chosen you, it proves that there are some things that only you can do, and this is fate. Gu Qiao listened in a daze. She understands the meaning of each of these words, but how do they fit together? She doesn't understand. That means he can't fix it. Master, what should I do if the elder tests me this evening? Su Qingfeng waved his hand and confidently assured Gu Qiao. It's okay, just leave this matter to me to handle. I promise the elder won't come to you again. Gu Qiao nodded happily. Anyway, as long as the elder doesn't trouble her. Okay, then master, we'll leave first. Su Qingfeng nodded, waiting for this moment. As a result, Gu Qiao turned her head and saw 2 cakes on the table. Master, this is quite delicious, I'll take it with me. After finishing speaking, roll up the pastries on the table and run. Su Qingfeng looked at the empty tabletop, breaking through the defense. Bunny, I don't know if you can leave some for me. But so what? The disciple still needs to be pampered. Gu Qiao, holding 2 cakes, was extremely happy. She looked at Shen Yan beside her. Let's split it with you. Shen Yan quietly glanced at her and proudly tilted his head aside. I don't like sweet food. Gu Qiao bit down half of the other one with 1 bite. Really not. If you really don't want it, I'll eat it. Shen Yan silently turned his head back. Gu Qiao looked at the longing in his eyes and couldn't bear it, so she directly stuffed the pastry into his hand. Eat it, liking sweet food is not a shameful thing. Shen Yan has always been proud and coquettish, but this time he didn't refute anything, just stared blankly at the pastry in his hand. Gu Qiao. Do you want to see me dancing swords? Gu Qiao was stunned for a moment, then nodded wildly as if she had taken advantage of it. Watching handsome guys dance swords, who wouldn't want to? The young man was dressed in white, with long hair draped over his shoulders, and his toes lightly tapped. His sword was hanging in the air, with distinct roots. His thin and fair fingers grasped the black handle of the sword, and the sword flashed a silver light in the air, making a sudden sound of sword sounds. This is the first time Gu Qiao has truly seen Shen Yan's sword. The black scabbard, with simple grain decoration, is clean and neat. The black hilt is adorned with 2 gilded dragons. The blade is made of black iron, which looks like a good sword. Shen Yan flipped his wrist and the blade of his sword rolled up the leaves on the ground. At that moment, peach blossoms fluttered all over the sky and landed on his shoulder. He spun his sword and swayed as it landed at his feet. As the wrist strength increased, the sword made a hissing sound like a swimming snake. The green silk, white clothes, and black sword complemented each other, becoming the most beautiful scenery. Gu Qiao was amazed to see it. Gu Qiao, if you give me some pastries, I'll teach you swordsmanship, and we'll be even. Ha! After reading it, Gu Qiao was shocked to find that knowledge had entered her mind in a despicable way. Isn't she looking at handsome guys? Why did she inexplicably learn a set of swordsmanship? By the way, what is the name of your sword? Shen Yan's figure paused. Tai Chu. Tai Chu, it's a good name. Chapter 10, You Like Her. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. That night, the elder ran to find Su Qingfeng. Junior brother, did you allow Gu Qiao's matter? Su Qingfeng smiled calmly. The elder knew it was not a good thing. Senior brother, come and go. The elder touched half of his beard and was summoned to sit opposite Su Qingfeng. Junior brother, I really don't know what you're thinking. Gu Qiao. Come on, senior brother, have some tea. Junior brother, Gu. Senior brother, come and try some pastries. Gu. Hey, senior brother, I have a jade pillow here that's good for my waist. Take it back and use it. The elder is truly tired. The elder is also tired, so let's not say anything, just bury your head and eat. After eating and drinking enough, I looked at Su Qingfeng. Junior brother, why are you protecting Gu Qiao so much? You used to clearly prioritize your disciples' studies. Look, after Gu Qiao arrived, what have you become? Well, I don't care about my homework anymore. Gu Qiao has been violating sect rules all day, and you don't care either. You still protect her every day and indulge her. Su Qingfeng, has your mind been flooded? Su Qingfeng. Senior brother, that's not what you said. The elder has already turned red-eyed. Regardless of the situation, going up is like going up. That's not what I said, how did I say it? Ah, you're so happy that Gu Qiao has to dismantle the Qingfeng Sect. Su Qingfeng looked at his senior brother who was attacking the sky, the earth, and the air, and swallowed a mouthful of saliva in fear. Senior brother, to be honest, Gu Qiao is different from others. 10,000 elders were unwilling to hear this. Different, where is different? Others are the sunrise in the east and the rain in the west, while she is the demon in the south and the mouse in the north. Su Qingfeng. Senior brother, I want to tell you the truth. But at this moment, the elder couldn't stop talking. What's real or fake? Don't say it if you don't want to. Oh, then I won't say anything. Elder. The elder looked extremely disdainful and waved his sleeve. Tell me, tell me. Su Qingfeng laughed at these words like a villain who had succeeded in a scheme. Senior brother, do you still remember that Gu Qiao is the purest spiritual root? The elder rolled his eyes directly. Shen Yan is not only the purest spiritual root, but also hasn't seen how he is. Su Qingfeng smiled and continued. On the night Gu Qiao entered the sect, I watched the celestial phenomena at night. Guess what I saw? The elder glanced at him and continued to drink tea calmly, indifferent. What did you see? Su Qingfeng said, I saw that the southern vermilion bird's 7 mansions were shining exceptionally brightly. The elder calmly swallowed a sip of water and his expression became serious. As you say, it's strange. The eastern azure dragon, the northern xuanwu, the western white tiger, and the southern vermilion sparrow. These 20.8 constellations have always been interconnected. Now the vermilion bird is abnormal, I'm afraid something big is about to happen. Su Qingfeng nodded and said, not bad, senior brother. Do you remember when the last time the vermilion bird was abnormal? The elder put down his cup, touched his beard, and reminisced as he touched it. You mean, when that person was born, however, when she had an accident, we were just new members of the sword sect and didn't know what happened back then. The elder suddenly lowered his voice and continued. I heard that 300 years ago, when that person was born, the sky was shining brightly, and the 20.8 constellations appeared in one sky at the same time, shining exceptionally brightly. Among them, the first to appear was the vermilion bird. However, this person has already fallen, and her 4 divine beasts have long disappeared. Gu Qiao should have nothing to do with this matter. Su Qingfeng just smiled. I don't know if Gu Qiao is related to this matter. Judging solely from the supernatural event that day, I'm afraid Gu Qiao's future path will not be smooth. The elder nodded heavily, as if sensing the seriousness of the situation. Anyway, junior brother, since she has joined the sect of my Qingfeng Sect, she is a part of it. From now on, I will just turn a blind eye. Quan Dang, within her abilities, protects her without you. In Shen Yan's room, Gu Qiao had just left with leftover food. The man in black walked out of the darkness. Master, I have something that I don't know how to talk about. It's not appropriate to talk about it. Shen Yan gave him a faint glance. When did you become so motherly? What's up to you? The man in black said lightly. Master, have you fallen in love with Miss Gu Qiao? Shen Yan just drank the water in his mouth, and was so surprised that he sprayed out a mouthful due to the sudden words. What are you talking about? Luo, what have you been following me for so long and paying attention to? Luo also hoped that he had misread, but during this time he had been following Shen Yan to see clearly. Master, you took the opportunity to teach Miss Gu techniques and asked her to bring you food. Isn't that because you want to spend more time with her? Also, your cleanliness obsession was something that nobody used to allow to touch, but now, Miss Gu can touch it casually and you don't wash your hands. Also, when you came out of the main hall of the sect today, what you taught Miss Gu was clearly the Shen family's traditional swordsmanship. Sect leader, you dare to say that you have no heart for Miss Gu. Shen Yan fell silent. He knows all that Luo said. But he always felt that it was Gu Qiao who saved his life, so he treated Gu Qiao particularly well. But just as Luo said it, he suddenly realized that it didn't seem like that. He was thinking too simply. Okay, I understand. You can go down. Luo Quebec. Is that all?